Hi, this is Cindy Presgraves with Real Estate Divorce Single Parent, and I want to go ahead and talk to you today about divorce and kids. Going through a divorce and having kids, and sometimes we do have the fear of, how will it affect our kids, as parents, should I stay in the same relationship? What can I do to save the marriage because of my kids? Okay, people, I'm going to tell you something more. Well, I grew up in a very dysfunctional home. My parents would argue every single day. It was actually a domestic violence household completely. Like, there was a point that I saw my dad hit my mom many times, and I didn't want to go through that. I mean, the insults, the emotional, physically, mental abuse that was there on a daily basis at times. I didn't want to be there because I didn't want to be home, and I didn't feel like it was a family. It was not a safe place, and I would spend hours and hours and hours at school because I didn't want to be picked up. I'm like, pick me up as long the latest as possible. And I would stay at school just, because I didn't want to be home. It was an unsafe and unstable place. And whenever we were at weekends at home, I didn't want to be there. I would just create myself into this little imaginary world that I had. I mean, while I was growing up, I had imaginary friends, an imaginary sister, twin sister actually. And just because my parents were always fighting, and I see this, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, you know what? That's going to mess up my kids. They need a mom and a dad." But sometimes we don't come into a reality that when we are actually separated and we have a different, like, we have the mom and a dad in like divorced, because it's become a very intoxicating household and intoxicating, you know I would say, ambience for the kids environment. You don't want to have them through that. You want to see mom and dad happy, because once they're divorced, then they can actually give them a whole, like, a really good atmosphere. It's going to be healthier. Dad can show their kids like a totally different, like, perspective of things, and mom can be happy too. So it doesn't necessarily say, hey, once that divorce is bad, divorce isn't bad at all. As long as you guys cannot fix things and you think you cannot work things out, then walk away. It is okay. But in order to be a good parent, you need to find yourself. You need to be happy with yourself before you start anything, especially for your kids. Like, just think about, like, what type of example are you going to give your kids? Is it okay to stay in a toxic relationship, in an unhappy relationship? No, it's not. And I'm telling you this by experience. I would say, like, I would beg my parents. I remember when I was 6 years old, I would beg my parents, please get divorced, please get divorced, please get divorced, because I didn't want to see that. I didn't want to see my mom, arguing with my dad all the time. My dad, being like very, well, growing up in my household, it was like I wasn't my parents. I didn't really grew up with a dad. My dad wasn't really there. It was always my mom. And unfortunately, that's what I saw. My dad was always working. He never wanted to be around because of my mom. He couldn't stand my mom. My mom wanted to be with my dad, but my mom didn't. She was unhappy too. And I saw that while growing up. And sometimes we have that fear of, how is this going to affect my kids if I get divorced because they need the mom and dad? No, it's not. Times have changed a lot. And sometimes you need to see, like, what can be done. What are the choices? What are the advantages of it? Am I going to be a happier parent? What am I teaching my kid? Because those are, we are molding those kids to become a better person. But if we actually create a pattern from them being like, right now, as my kids are growing up in a completely happy household, what do they see? A happy mom. They see a happy dad. But if I'm in that situation of, like, hey, I don't want to be there. I don't want to be there, and there's constant arguing. There's not happiness in that household. That's what the kids are going to project. That's what they're going to see. That's what they're going to grow up with. And when they grow up and get into a relationship, that's something they're going to be like, hey, oh, you know what? It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. And it comes into a toxic pattern. That means when they grow up, they're going to have to heal those wounds. It all comes from a background, it all comes from trauma. And while we grow up with that, it's up to us to change those patterns. Because if we don't change those patterns now, then in the long run, it's going to affect our kids, no matter what the situation is. So I just wanted to talk about that very briefly because one of my friends is actually getting divorced and he's so concerned that it's going to affect his child, and he's going through therapy, counselor, and all that. And it's like, is this the right thing? And me, as going through divorce, it is the right thing. If you think that there's no hope, there's no, and you guys have done everything as possible to save that marriage, and there's nothing that can be done, it is okay to get divorced. It is okay to have two different households. And you know what, you might become later on a blended family. And in whole this whole perspective, think about this. You know what, your child is going to become, it's going to gain another mom or another dad. And you know, they get remarried, but they're going to have two different households, they're going to have two different Christmases. And if you guys get along later on in life, that's going to be amazing because you're going to know how to co-parent and how, what a healthy household it is. So I just wanted to discuss a little bit on that. This is Cindy Presgraves with Cindy, real estate divorce single parent. And if you guys have any questions or comment below, please let me know. I would love to talk about a little bit more of things about this, but that is like my less than 10-second podcast today. So like I said, this is Cindy Presgraves. Let me know, comment below, and share this. Have a beautiful day.